Alejandro,
Hello.
how are you?
Good, good.
What city you in now?
I'm in Denver.
Great, I'm in Washington, D.C. Welcome to Grasstops.
Nice.
So, let's just get into it. Could you hear me?
Yep.
So, Alejandro, you are one of the most go get 'em guys I know. I've
Thanks.
heard several of our colleagues saying that. Most recently, Wilson Karaman said that. You're really enthusiastic. You're energetic. You're even what I would call tenacious when it comes to just getting out there and organizing people and meeting people. And you do it in such a positive way. So I want to ask you, what's your secret? What's your philosophy?
I would say my secret lies in my mom, because my mom is a lifelong organizer by accident. And looking back when we first arrived to the United States back in 1997, my mom's first job was as a canvasser to go knock on doors for candidates she didn't even know. And she just knew there was a paycheck and she was going to get paid and provide for her family. But after doing it for a few weeks, she started to get that bug that we all have in the activist world, and she just stuck with it. She really liked the passion and being able to do something for her community that she lived in. And so I think she always instilled that in my brother and I, whether we liked it or not, because we had to. I was 7 years old up to probably 13 is when I stopped canvassing alongside my mom. And so I think now looking back and really realizing what that meant for my mom and our community, I continue to just look back on those moments. That's what motivates me, and that's what makes me want to do this job. And I always ask myself, if my mom could do this in 1997 without speaking English and not being afraid to go knock on a door and talk to someone about becoming a U.S. citizen or registering to vote, I look back at that and I say, if she could do it, I could do it. And I think that's what gives me that drive and the passion and just the will to do it every day.
So you basically, as you get out there and you organize and you present and you talk to people within your job at GCI and now where you are today, you remember your mom and you live your story as you do your work. What would you say as a recommendation to another former colleague at Grassroots Campaigns, GCI, or another fellow organizer who may not have a mom like you have, but wants to get out there and wants to be as enthusiastic, as energetic, as positive as you are? What would you recommend to them?
Yeah, no, I think it all comes down to the issues and the issue that you are representing or fighting for at that moment. I sometimes, sometimes there are issues that I'm not, I of course feel passionate about every issue that I've worked in the past, but there's issues where are not as high in my priority list personally as others. And so when I do have a campaign where it's not an issue that's directly connected to my heart, the whole enthusiasm and all that still is tough to get out. But at the end of the day, I think the advice that I would give is to look back and see that issue or that campaign you're currently working on. Who is it going to affect? Who is it going to help? And if you start thinking about the people who it's going to help and the benefits that others are going to get from your canvassing or your campaign, then it's easier to motivate people around. I think a lot of times us as directors or as canvas organizers, we often think a lot about the goals. And it's like, we have to hit that goal. We have to knock on X amount of doors. We have to talk to X amount of people. And that's all important. But at the end of the day, it's about connecting with people and talking to them, not talking at them. And so if people just remember that stay motivated through the issue and what people are going to get out of it and what outcome that community is going to receive after your campaign is over in that location, what people are going to get out of it. And I think people will find it easier to motivate others around that than some goals or doors, things like that.
Seems like good advice. So let me. So that's your secret. That's your philosophy. Live your own story. Find the issues. Alejandro, today Americans are worried. There's a lot of anxiety out there. Americans in general do not feel safe. There's active shooters at home in places like Las Vegas. I mean, we can list the cities. There's war. There's the possibility of nuclear war abroad. People are worried about economic issues, not being able to pay bills, not being able to put food on the table, not being able to be a good parent by being able to afford what kids need, not being able to cover health insurance, not being able to pay the mortgage or the rent. I mean, we can go on and on and on. And what ends up happening is American families are running the risk of being put out of their homes. There's so much uncertainty out there. But you run the risk of being put out of your country. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, I was brought to this country when I was 7 years old. And many times, like the story goes, through no fault of our own, our families decided to want to give us a better life. And, my mom, 21 years ago, decided that she was going to make that sacrifice and leave her home country of Mexico, my home country and my brother's home country, and say, we're going to go to another country. And that was the best move my mom could have ever made. And I thank her for that every single day. And as a kid, I didn't know what it was to be undocumented. In fact, I don't think I realized. I knew I was undocumented for a long time. I just didn't know what it was, what it meant really as a child. But it was when I was 18 years old and trying to apply for college. And, my counselor tells me, Alejandro, you can't apply for that college. You don't have a scholarship. You don't have the grades, most importantly. But it was that, and I said, well, I can get FAFSA. And of course, as an undocumented immigrant, you don't qualify for FAFSA. And so my aspirations of going to my state school wasn't an option for me. So I had to go to community college. And it was there where I realized that I had to no longer be afraid of speaking up and telling my story of who I was. For many years when I was a kid and even a teenager, there's this thing called, I don't know if this is phrased or tokened already, but undocu-bullying, where you get bullied for being undocumented between your own peers when you're a kid, even in high school. And so many times I would lie that I would go to Mexico and that I would come back to the United States and my Christmas vacation happened in Mexico, just so that I wouldn't give out that I was undocumented. And that was the life we had to live in. My mom would say, you're not supposed to tell people that you're not here legally. You're, we're supposed to stay under the radar. But it was when I went to community college that I was elected to be student body president. And I did some little digging around, and I was the first undocumented student body president to be representing 28,000 students at Santa Ana Community College. And at that time, the Orange County Dream Team, very powerful immigrant rights, basically for dreamers, was starting to really take light and was being very, very active. And so I remember having conversations with them and saying, Alejandro, you have a platform right now that you get to tell people that even a student body president can be undocumented. And so I used that, and from that day forward, I started sharing my story of being undocumented and realized that by sharing my story, it made me feel more secure of being in this country. And I think that was because I was no longer afraid of what could happen to me. I was already just putting it out there. And, I think it's been it's now I see it as an opportunity for me. Definitely. Before I saw it as a burden, and I saw it as like I am, as a fear. Now I see it as a moment of me to be able to speak up for others. And so, throughout my organizing experience at Grassroots Campaigns, people would often tell me that I had a very powerful story when I would share with people. And I would say that it's a story that I wish I didn't have. I wish I wasn't undocumented. But at the same time, it's been a blessing because I think I've been put in a position where I don't take things for granted. Like, a simple thing as having a driver's license. That's something that I didn't have for a long time. And, those kinds of things that we often, I feel that people take for granted because it's just, there as a right for them. And so, it's made me appreciate those little things in life. But more importantly, now that, we've been given this document that says, Alejandro, you are now validated to be part of the society that you've been part for forever. Now you're actually given an opportunity to go and shine and do whatever you want legally. Getting a job that will allow you to stay in there because you have the proper documents. And to have that and to kind of feel that liberation for a little bit, but always knowing that can be taken away from us at any minute. Comes to reality. On September 5th, 2016, DACA was rescinded from us in a way that was, for me, that was, a day that, I remember exactly where I was at, where I saw the news, where I was coming up, because I'm, something that I depend on. It's my life. Right now I have to 2019 to be able to work legally. And I get asked this question often. It's like, what are you going to do now that DACA is out, that you don't have DACA? And I say, I'm going to do the same thing I've been doing, work and provide for my family. Just because DACA came about doesn't mean I wasn't working before. I was still working. I was still being a productive member of my community. But yeah, it's a little bit harder. And, I've been talking about my younger brother for a while now, for a few things. And my brother's DACA did not get approved. His DACA was rescinded. And so, we live that struggle every day. But I feel that in the line of work that I do, it's one that I'm in a particular position where I get to advocate for people and I get to show others that, hey, this is what an undocumented person looks like. Let's talk. This is what we want. And so I think now my, December 8th is the last, I feel like the next opportunity we have to pass a Clean Dream Act. And it's something that I get to be able to stay up to date and participate on issues like this because I'm involved in an organization like Grassroots Campaigns. I was able to really just continue to stay connected to what I loved. And that means on the good times and the bad times because, we celebrate when we have a victory. And when, now, like, for example, DACA was rescinded, we have to fight. And I'm happy that I'm in the front lines of it. I get to hear about it. I get to, tell friends to call this number, and I know the numbers to call, and I know the players who are trying to do something about immigration. And so, I guess to wrap my answer for you is that, I have a button that I wear often that says undocumented and unafraid. And so, although that fear exists, out there, it doesn't affect me as it used to. It definitely still does because I have fear for my family, I have fear for my friends, I have fear for others, but it doesn't affect me the way it did before.
How old is your brother?
What was that?
How old is your brother?
My brother is 24.
And he's older or younger? You said he's
Younger,
younger.
younger. Yeah, he's
Well,
3 years younger than me.
and I imagine that's a big weight on you, not only worrying, because you seem, as I said, very positive, and you're a very strong person. But I imagine you worry about your family.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, it was ironic. My mom called me on Saturday to tell me this news while I was literally canvassing for a immigrant rights advocacy group here in Colorado, talking to voters about DACA and what it means to elect people who support policies. Even though they're in the local level, we need to start electing people who support immigrants and especially young immigrants. And so, I'm here knocking on doors in the city of Westminster in Colorado, a very Hispanic, Latinx community. And I get a phone call from my mom and tells me that, hey, has your brother called you? This is where we stand right now. And so, I think, that is just a testament to what I do. It's like I'm fighting for the rights of not only myself and my family, but definitely for an entire community. And it's something that I really enjoy doing. And even though it's a difficult time for us, it's we're used to it. We've been in a country where we are not welcome, and so these type of kind of like obstacles that we're facing is something that it's not new, and so we just have to face it. And I think because I'm in a position where I understand and I see things and I know how maybe the trajectory where things can go, or I'm exposed to people who have gone through the same situation, I'm able to maneuver and navigate this a little bit easier than, let's say, somebody who had no knowledge of what this is all about. I can tell you that my brother is not as connected or as involved within the movement and things. He doesn't follow it as much as I do, and so his thing was to call me and to figure out, and I'm the one who needs to figure these things out, which to me is important, and I'll do it absolutely. But it also makes me think of things like, wow, what if I wasn't involved? What if I didn't speak the language? And there's a lot of people out there like that who don't speak the language, who are just working and are going through the same struggles that my family and I are going through. The difference is that I can get on the driver's seat and try to figure out, even though there's a lot of fork lanes, I can still figure it out. But realizing that there's people out there who have a harder time figuring these things out is also another thing that keeps me moving.
Yeah, I think it does for a lot of us. Like I said, Americans in general are worried. Working families are worried. There's anxiety amongst dreamers that's greater than the average American family. But what makes us all strong, especially people like us progressives, that there's always someone that's in a more unfortunate situation. So, I mean, you make a great point. There are others out there that don't even speak English, and that just puts you in a more vulnerable, a riskier situation. So we've got to, not sit back and complain and pity ourselves, but look to others that need our help, to be lifted up as we all deal with what we deal with, and we have to have hope. Like I said, it's so important that from your brand at GCI and everything we do with you is that you're positive, and that's great. And we need to be positive for ourselves, but also for others that are less fortunate. So while you're positive, Alejandro, you're also resilient. So there's really great things that you've done, and one of those is, why don't you tell me where you were when you first found out that you were chosen to represent GCI and present on behalf of GCI at the DNC's, the Democratic Party's Resistance Summer Training, fly-in training, where representatives came from all 50 states, all state party, Democratic Party committees to represent each state. You were there to train them in D.C. How did that feel when you first found out about that?
Yeah, well, it was definitely. So at first, would you ask where was I at? I was wrapping up a intensive recruitment drive to hire fellows that we were going to teach for a whole month on how to become organizers. So I was, in a way, already getting prepared for that presentation I gave without knowing that I was going to do something like that. But it was, I think, very exciting for me. Again, just realizing the position that I'm at. Again, just being able to stand in a platform where I get to talk to people on a way of canvassing. And so, I feel that I've been canvassing for these many years. And of course, when I received that, the first thing I said, why me? Like, there's no way I can do this presentation. I don't think I have the skills. But then again, my mom tells me, what do you mean you don't think you have the skills? You've been doing this since you were a young kid. You absolutely have all the skills. Just tell them everything that you've been doing. And I said, well, I think I've been doing it wrong this whole time. But it was great. It was a great opportunity for me to be able to show a little bit of the skills that I've learned throughout the years. But most importantly, share the skills that I've learned while at Grassroots Campaigns. I think it's been Grassroots Campaigns really gave me the skills on how to be able to deliver something like this. From just being able to stand in front of people and deliver a story is not an easy thing. And those skills were kind of like honed in while at Grassroots Campaigns because they instill that so much in you. And then just having a canvas, every single, probably most of the time that I was with Grassroots Campaigns, I was either working on a campaign or doing something. And so I was always practicing what I was about to go on stage and preach. I was practicing it every single day. And so it was a nerve-wracking moment, but I think at the end of the day, it was well received, and I was happy to be part of it. And I'm, open to doing anything like that down the future.
How did it feel when you were up there on stage in front of everyone, including the principal of Grassroots Campaigns, Sue Moran, your boss, my boss, and all those representatives? How did it feel?
Well, first of all, I was like, does she really have to be here? But can we just show her a video later on? But no, I love Sue, and I think it went a lot better than it could have because of Sue being there, and you, of course, also helping me to be there. But the feeling that I had was just like I'm talking to a group of canvassers, and I'm teaching them how to go and canvass out the door. And I've done this thousands of times, and not with that big of a crowd. I think the biggest kind of launch I ever did was like 45, 50 canvassers. And so I kind of like try to look back at that moment and say, how did I, train those canvassers at that time, and just picture myself being in the, canvassing room, getting ready to go out and knock on doors.
Well, I think you did a great job at uniquely, like your mom said, using your experience, using the content that, we worked together. You worked beforehand. We worked together with Sue while we were there. So you uniquely used the right content, the experience of yourself and GCI, and you combined it with humor. And just, you were human on stage. And I think people related to that because you might have been nervous, which I think you were, because you said it before you even got up on stage. But everyone in the crowd was nervous. I mean, this was a key part of Resistance Summer, getting out there and canvassing. And to be able to get up there and teach everyone who's about ready to go back to their 50 states and do this, it was an important moment. So I imagine you felt empowered. What did everyone else say to you afterwards?
Yeah, no, I think definitely got some people who were saying thank you for sharing how to properly talk to a person at the door. I think the overall message that was there was that we're there to have a persuasion kind of talk to in canvassing, and it's how to connect with people and how to talk to them, and not really just there and just spew a message. You really got to connect with people. And so afterwards I was hearing things like, that's something that we forget to do at times. We're often talking to people. We're not just trying to not talk at a door. We don't get votes by knocking on doors and talking and just leaving it lit there. We get votes by talking to people and really connecting with them. And I think that's what I received after the presentation.
That's great news. That's important going forward in 2018 and 2020. So you've moved on beyond GCI. You're now among the ranks of alumni. Grassroots Campaigns, GCI has alumni at Indivisible and Democracy for America. I mean, all kinds of organizations and campaigns, and I always think that GCI is a great breeding ground, an empowering breeding ground for more professional organizers and canvassers. So you were an inspiration to many, and many to come, for having been a key presenter at the DNC's Resistance Summer Training, and all that you've done for many of our partners and clients around the country. So now you've moved on. Where are you? What's your story? What's going on?
Yeah, now I am at America Votes, Colorado. I'm their program director, and I'm going into my third week on the job with them, and it's interesting. Definitely, I'm working from being in California and being just the field canvas director at many times, and just having that always just door mentality in executing field programs, and then moving on to a different role where I'm not actually the one putting the plans together, executing things. I'm the one just being able to make sure that other organizations that are out there are having that they have all the tools and everything that they need to run a successful program. So it's a big transition, but something that I feel that GCI and the work that I did there really prepared me for to do this type of to the role that I'm in now. And so I'm really excited to have the opportunity to to work in this capacity, and definitely contribute everything that I've learned throughout the years into programs here in Colorado.
Could you talk a little bit about what is America Votes? What is America Votes Colorado? How it is different from GCI, and how it relates? How you can apply what you've learned at GCI to your work for people that don't know, especially.
Sure. Yeah, so I think here in Colorado, America Votes plays a role of making sure that the organizations that are out there doing election work are all basically we're coordinating, making sure that organizations out there are not conflicting. Just being that the table basically where everyone else convenes and is able to deliver onto the programs, and if there are other organizations that can help out and can lend a hand, we're there to connect people. But I think what's prepared me to do a role like this, from what I've learned in Grassroots Campaigns, is again all the training level experience that I gained there. We're always constantly training people on how to knock on a door, on how to talk to people, on how to answer a phone, on how to interview someone, on how to just many different interviews and trainings. And I think that it's something that's going to make me stronger for this position, because I have all this knowledge and that I've gained, and now I'm able to share those experiences that I've gotten throughout the years in California, learning how things are run there, how to canvas, also in here in Denver, and so I think that's where I'll be able to bring a lot to this organization, is my ability to be able to train people and talk to people and communicate with them on best practices.
Yeah, I always say that that's our business model. Grassroots Campaigns, GCI's business model of nobody recruits and trains better than we do, and
I agree.
And I don't hesitate to say that to labor unions or organizations. And we've done stuff with America Votes before, and you led those interactions, those collaborations. So, and now you're there. So there's a lot of overlap. I'm sure you're not disappearing to some far off other industry. You're still around, and you're an inspiration. I imagine your mom is very proud of you.
Oh yeah, definitely. My mom was really happy when I told her this position and what I've been doing, what I'm going to be doing, and just the overall excitement on my end too. Telling my mom that I didn't think I was going to be getting the job, and when I was going through the interview process, I would tell my mom, I'm going to this interview, but I'm not sure how it's going to go. And moms being moms, she was like, "Mijo, you're going to get it. Don't worry about it. Just start thinking about how you're going to do the new job, because you're totally going to get it." And she was right.
Well, your mom seems like a very beautiful human being and a very special person.
Absolutely, she is, definitely.
I'm glad you have that driving force, and I'm glad she's proud of you, because we're very proud of you. I'm very proud of you. Keep up the good work, and you're doing great things, and you're an inspiration to your mom and to everybody who you've worked with in our circles, and I'm sure to come. So thanks for everything you do, Alejandro.
I'm sure I'll see you somewhere.
Definitely.
All
right. Well, stay warm and out there.
It's getting cold.
There's someone was walking behind you with a coat on, like a winter parka type coat. So
that was my husband. He was leaving for work, but it's like 30 degrees right now.
Great. Well, congratulations for everything. It was great to talk to you.
Great. Awesome.
Good.
See ya.
Cuídate.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hasta luego.
Bye.